No mai, haere mai ki Aotearoa Rugby Pod. Welcome to the Aotearoa Rugby Pod, brought to you by Ashley and Martin Medical Hair Centres. It's been over a week since the All Blacks were smashed by the Boks in Wellington. The sun is still coming up and life goes on. Now it's the Wallabies' turn to take aim at New Zealand and try to end the Eden Park streak. What makes it tough is losing their key ball carriers, Will Skelton and Rob Valetini. We'll break down what might happen this weekend. We have a yarn with injured All Black Timoci Tavatavanawai. We'll look at whether Argentina can pick up an away win against the Boks in Durban, break down what went wrong for the Black Ferns in their World Cup semi, and whether Canada can upset England in the final. The Shield has moved again after Otago had an epic win over Canterbury. Why is it so hard to hold on to? Plus, we have another Rugby Ready giveaway for a month of free training with All Blacks guru Nick Gill's training team. As I mentioned, there'll be your emails and comments, as well as all the in-depth analysis you've come to expect from the show. In the studio with me, as ever, James Parsons. A week off Test footy, but that's just more NPC.
I'm in a better mood this week, Ross. I'm looking forward. I'm excited for the Bledisloe and really looking forward to discussing some opportunities for the All Blacks.
The glass is almost completely full.
Oh yeah, it's back. It was a little bit empty last week, there's no doubt about that, but I've picked myself up. I'm ready to rock and roll.
And on the other side of the world, Bryn Hall, all the way from Tokyo. Are you in Tokyo right now, Bryn, in Japan?
Chiba area, not too, probably like 30, 40 minutes away from Tokyo. But boys, I just want to say, geez, well done last week. I think if there was one time for me not to be there, I think you guys did actually do it in the old intro, but yeah, some great analysis. Hopefully we can see some better days and some opportunities with this Bledisloe coming up. But well done from watching from afar in Japan.
The Wallabies this weekend at Eden Park. What do you expect to change? What must change? What must they do to get back to where they want to be?
You know, set piece. If they can dominate line out and scrum, or even get parity, we know that when that is, I suppose, set in stone and rock solid, it allows their defence to get going, allows them to get some dominant collisions and shoulders on, and obviously in attack, it allows them more opportunities. Like, I think the big thing out of Eden Park and the Wellington Test, there are only 4 entries in both games into the 22. And I think it's really crucial that if we can get our set piece going and maybe play a bit more on the front foot, we can see more of those opportunities, because as we saw with South Africa against the Wallabies, and we'll dive into some analysis later on in terms of that 22-metre attack, that they can be vulnerable in there, the Wallabies. But getting there is proving to be a little bit harder than I suppose that we're used to in New Zealand with line breaks, and I suppose being on the wrong side of the penalty count doesn't allow us to piggyback ourselves in there. So big thing, you know, set piece will sort of dictate, you know, how much they can play on the front foot, and then that discipline, ideally they can put some pressure in and around the breakdown and be able to get in there in that 22 more often than not.
I had the misfortune of seeing some of the tries from the Springbok game in Wellington again earlier today, and I hadn't noticed at the time just how big an effect it had, but there was a scrum that twisted before Khaleesi made that break, and there were no All Black loose forwards in the defence at all. Things like that made such a big difference in that game.
Massive. Like we speak about it all the time. Like, when you're under that sort of scrum pressure, you just cannot afford to try and get off early. And when you know, I suppose when you've got that dominance, you can get off early and you can manipulate it. And look, I have no doubt that they'll have a big turnaround, particularly at scrum time. Line out was probably more of an anomaly, but I think because of the I suppose that one scrum at Eden Park and then, you know, some more wobbles in Wellington, there'll be a big focus on that.
Bruno, we look over to the Wallabies, and such a huge part of what they've done has been Valetini and Skelton in order to create that imposing nature that brings you victories. Do you think that they've got what it takes without those guys to get physical dominance and push the All Blacks in those areas?
I think they do. Look, let's not underestimate how big of a loss Skelton, and it's especially Valetini. You know, that 1-2 punch, I think when they went back and you look back to probably the Lions series and that South African Test match as well, being able to get over the advantage, like I think the lightning quick ball and the ability to be able to the gain line, both of them was really influential around the Wallabies being able to do that. So look, there are some other guys with, you know, the likes of Bell and Tupou, you know, Hooper, Frost, McBride and Tizana, you know, those guys are really going to have to be able, I guess, hold the load in terms of being able to get that go forward ball. So they are able to be able to do it. I think they have shown in the British and Irish Lions, and even through the duration of this rugby championship, they've been able to do that. But I think Pete Samu coming back, probably if he is selected, he's another guy that's very good and dynamic around the ball carry on both sides of the ball. But we can't underestimate that losing the likes of a Skelton, and especially Valetini, that 1-2 punch, which was so successful for the British and Irish Lions series, and I think, you know, for that first South African game as well.
Where else do you see evolutions? in this Wallabies team that the All Blacks have to, cope with?
They'll play. So they play from everywhere. They do have a high turnover count, which creates opportunities, but they have limited kicks, only 22 in the last test against Argentina. And I think, again, knowing that it's a 5 o'clock kickoff, they will chance their arm in that exit zone to try and, manipulate that defence to open up potential 50-22s that we've seen the Wallabies get. But they really try to bring that backfield up initially, and I think that's something that we need to be really wary of. But also excited about, because if we can put some defensive pressure on and bring some line speed, maybe force some turnovers and or get some breakdown turnovers ourselves from isolating them in that carry clean game, they're a dangerous beast, but it presents a lot of opportunity for the All Blacks if they can shut things down and pressure that skill set coming out of their 22.
More so probably before Joe Schmidt around the balance of play and being able to kick the ball. So like Jip did touch around the kicks that they did have against Argentina, but if you'd look at anything around that June series, not the June series, the South Africans, and being able to put kick pressure airily, you'd have to think it's a way that they might go. And I know Nick White's not playing, but Jake Ward's coming back, Tate McDermott, and I think if they do their kick, they get their kick balance right, especially if they don't win that gain line area with the likes of Skelton and Valetini not being there. It's a great way to be able to put pressure on this All Blacks, because it has been a little bit of an Achilles heel, especially in the early part of the season. It's been openly talked about within that group. So, I think being able to play definitely have a lot of X factor, I guess, out wide with Swaliti and the likes of Banks and whatnot. But I think if they can get that kick battle and been able to suffocate the All Blacks with what we've seen probably early in the season, it could be a ploy that we could see from Joe Smith, and that balance of being able to run the ball as well.
We should get excited about the style of play. Like I agree there will be some sort of kick battle, but they really do try to, and I think that's why they get out so far behind, because they really do chance their arm early in test matches. And I think the excitement for me is, if you look at Rassie's try just before the break against Fiji, you look at a number of opportunities presented to the Argentinians, that's what should set us alight. Wayne Smith brought in that, the click theory, which is that click attack, which means, you've got 15 seconds from turnover to really make it count. And with guys like Damian McKenzie, Will Jordan, if these opportunities can be presented, I just think it could set Eden Park alight.
Now, Jake Gordon, we mentioned before. I know you're a big fan. How big of a deal is having him back as far as the ability to press the All Blacks?
Massive defensively. Like I can, when I think Jake Gordon defensively, I think intercept tries. He is the best of creating pressure and either getting the intercept or forcing an error, and his timing is immaculate. Again, maybe it's my glass is really full this week. I'm thinking of everything is an opportunity for the All Blacks, of course, because it may leave a chink in the armour. But that's the big thing I think he brings is his instincts and the way he reads attacking structures. Not only helps himself for individual brilliance, but putting guys in the right place. And we've spoken about at length around the Wallabies. Defence is when they're passive, they're very vulnerable, and Jake Gordon's not a passive defender. He is take everything to you, which hopefully sets the standard for that line speed pressure that I suppose we're accustomed to with South Africa, but haven't seen for Australia. But they have, the last two tests, they've really started to ramp things up defensively off the back of that, I suppose, the confidence they got out of South Africa.
And Bryn, on the other hand, Cam Roigard looks like he could be back. How does that change the All Blacks attack? How does that change the way that they can be effective both close to the ruck and far away from the ruck?
Geez, well, what it does do defensively, I think for the Australians, you've got to keep him as he's a threat. Whether it's a rock action leader, you saw against Counties Monaco when he was able to score his try when he first came on. It's just a different question that poses you defensively. And it's no disrespect, obviously, Finlay, that was there for the last couple of test matches, and unfortunately, Noah Hotham got injured, but you've got to be able to be on. And so the only way that Cam's able to do that is if our forward pack is able to win the physicality. And so I think, probably against the South Africans, they're the toughest in terms of being able to try to win that on an everyday basis. But I think the ability to be able to do that, it's going to get teams to tighten up and condense more so the first three forwards either side of the ruck. And then in terms of that's the case, they're really tight, then you're able to go a little bit wider, whether it's the night, hitting the 9 or being able to get to a Bowden Barrett a little bit wider. It just condenses them if we're able to win and give him a good go forward ball as well. So, Yeah, I think Cam's a massive for us in terms of being able to, I guess, get our mojo back. But I think it's just he's a different type of half. I've touched on it. Like, I think for the next 12 months, he's going to be arguably one of the best halfbacks in the world. So if the forward pack can get in that go forward ball, then it's going to open not only for him, but the players in and around him with the forward pod, and then being able to get a little bit wider. Hopefully seeing now our outside backs being able to be the recipient of that tight work and tight defensive defence from the Australians.
Players like him, especially around the breakdown for forwards, you'll focus on them, you know, which means your head is sometimes not on a swivel. You know, you're sort of like looking at Cam, looking at there, and then, you know, taking off. By that time, as you look back worried about him, your player might have moved. And then what happens with that is either it creates a hole somewhere else, but more importantly, if they get some width on the pass, the All Blacks, you can cut off 6 or 7 defenders and trap them with a good hard out carry from that forward pod of the All Blacks, and then that quick ball. If we can get that quick ball and go, then you can skin teams on the outside. And I think that's what is really powerful in terms of getting our phase play attack going when Cam's there.
I think the South Africans, look, they were able to bring a high line speed pressure. Their defence is to put that skill set under pressure. But if we were able to be able to get over the advantage line with our carriers off Cam, we'll be able to get a tight carry off our 10. With this defensive, I guess, passiveness that the Australians do have, we'll be able to swing. And I guess what we kind of saw probably in that French series, that when we got things nice and tight, our forwards were able to win that first contact area, you know, first or 2 rucks. We would then be able to swing and been able to, I guess, get the animation of down lines out the back and guys roving in and around a 10 or a 12. So I just think, hate to harp on the point, but Jip always touches on it in terms of the physicality. And I think if that forward pack can get good go forward ball, the opportunities that we are going to see is going to be able to see a passive Australian defence and not a high line speed pressure with what we probably saw against the South Africans.
I'll put a couple of clips together here that I think the switch play is on in the attacking half of the All Blacks, potentially further out. But if I use the first test against the Springboks as the first example, is they're basically in the 22 and the South African players fold, and you can see the Wallabies, you know, they're trying to get around that corner. They know that that's the South African style. Now, if they don't fold hard, South Africa can just keep going. So if the All Blacks play this theory and they don't, I suppose, match them like we saw against the Springboks, you can just keep going and you'll eventually get to the try line. But what they did is they came around and then the most important bit was they switched back with a pick and go, which normally you'd say don't pick and go against the grain. But what it did, because they folded hard, Peter Steph made a little pick and go, made a little chink, and was a little bit isolated time, which rushed in 2 Wallaby defenders, and then quick ball. And the critical thing, I keep going like that, quick ball, because I've seen this opportunity a lot against the Wallabies. If you can inject yourself into the line, like a Damian McKenzie, in this clip you can see Lebok just pounces, runs deep into the defensive line, draws out Skelton, and then the beautiful touches of Fussy, he just holds his feet. So sometimes when someone injects into the D-line, you sort of chase in with them, but they just orchestrated. They knew that on the switch play, the Wallabies would be passive defensively, and because he punched into that line, it caused Will Skelton to jam. They didn't come with him. Fussy quick hands and a try in the corner. Now, it presents itself again, I think, as an opportunity from a penalty. If in the second test, if we go to a maul, now I think early in the game, if we can go to a maul and do a maul, okay, so that's the first, in terms of, I suppose, the chess game, is do a couple of mauls so that you actually draw in their defence, draw in the Wallabies defenders, because if you don't go to a maul and you go to a bunter play first, they actually spread quite well and it's hard to get into that channel. But in this example, they do a bunter play, but they'd mauled a couple of times for context, and then Malcolm Marx comes around and they basically get to the middle of the field, and the rest of the forwards are almost holding the Australians in that maul. And then there's an ejection down, another switch play straight away. Nothing going around the corner. Players go around the corner to force part of the Wallabies defence around, and then they come on this down line with the front row and a lock. And I think it's something that, you know, once they get them behind, it's then again, ball up. You know, like Sia Khaleesi scored a try as well with the pick and go. So just keep going through the middle. Now this comes into Cam Roigard. Like, it just fits his game. He will scoop up and go. Even a Cortez Ratama, what we saw of him before he got injured. So I just think, like, as you can see, I've got a bit of energy about it because I think it's going to feed a lot of confidence into this All Black attack, and that's what excites me. But also, hopefully it gives us more opportunities in the 22 because we can really expose this Wallabies defence in these methods of switching.
Oh, now, let's go into the appendix here. We've got bunter play.
Yes. So a bunter play is a fake maul, and they sometimes pop it to the hooker wrapping round, or the 7 pops out and passes.
Right, folding.
Folding is just going around the corner, either defensively or on attack, and it's just literally called folding around the corner. You know, I just think there's such an opportunity to get our mojo back around playing the chess game this week, both on attack and D.
Taranaki played some good chess.
Yes. So I think there's a couple of moves that we can steal from that magical coaching group of Neil Barnes, Gerard Hoyata and Bradley Cooper. And I can say it's from the coaches because I spoke to Josh Jacob after the game and he credited the coaches. So the first one is a switch play. You know, they use the hooker folding. So Bradley Slater folds, and then Josh Jacob sort of holds, which just checks that Hawke's Bay defence enough. There's also a great clean out. I think it's Peretti. He cleans deep and almost, again, blocking defenders like the South Africans held the Aussies in, and then which drew out the panic once Slater gets the ball. But Slater didn't engage, so they're rushing out to try and slow him, but he just holds his feet, inside ball to Josh Jacob, try time. And then they did it again late, which we've seen a lot, and I remember we used it for the under-20s against, and as this sort of stacked up, you've got all the backs stacked up here, and they just sort of, on the switch, they fold and join the forwards, and it creates a lot of deception. Now, it's not uncommon, but just the execution of it, because the Wallabies fold so quickly, if the All Blacks can hit that midfield and come back with a swing attack with Damian McKenzie, Will Jordan, Beauden Barrett, whew, I think my mate wants to critique my analysis.
What you got?
No. I think that's a perfect way of seeing it as clip strip, because if you do think in terms of like the switch play, defensively, sometimes if you're doing it first or 2 phases, the number 9 ends up being on the edge. So, you know, depending on in terms of like a defender, it's probably not I wouldn't say it's not your better defender, but obviously it's someone you can, obviously, if it's a loose water on the edge or anybody else that's got a bit of footwork, it's a little bit easier to be able to defend on a 9. But then also the first 2 phases, you're passive. Because when you go back down that short side, your first movement probably isn't going up to be able to go big, to be able to have big line speed. And if you are over folding, you tend to be able to be short on that short side. So if you are swinging, with probably the example there, hopefully you do clip Ross, but you know, the first movement is them going backwards because you've got so many players that are coming into that space late. You're not able to identify who's running where, the downline, or how many players to be able to counter if that ball is very, very quick. So it's definitely one play, which probably we saw actually with the All Blacks strip in terms of against Argentina. Beauden Barrett would come back on kind of a switch play, but they were actually being able to put the ball in behind. So obviously you can use the kick space if it's there, but I think being able to use that switch play, the first movements, I guess, of that defensive side on the short side is actually quite passive. So yeah, definitely something that I think is something to look into.
You mentioned kick play there. It's another thing that I've looked at, Brynner, this week is there's two examples that I put together in that second test of South Africa. There's a little dink over the top, and then there's obviously an attempt to exit kick. I think it was by Beauden Barrett. But the main thing is there's so much space on the edge now. Teams are almost giving the All Blacks that, and I think, and this goes against my DNA of exiting, but I think it should suit the All Blacks this week, is put it through the hands and almost kick from the edge. I'm not saying, you know, throw the kitchen sink coming out of your 22, but I think we should chance our arm and try and get a bend on the edge. We can always come back to the 15 and box kick from there, or we can get to the edge and we can kick down the field, especially if Will Jordan's playing on that right flank. It creates so many opportunities for a chip and chase, even a long, sort of grubber that could be a potential 50-22, rather than, I suppose, what we've shown picture-wise. Defence is sort of just getting tight, looking to load up on the forwards and then pressure the kick. I think if they do that, then I'd really love to see the All Blacks just spread it wide and really play to those edges, and even just play. You know, really run it out. If they get over that gain line, come with some downlines and build that phase and that up tempo. I just think the more up tempo, because the Wallabies are so wanting to play fast and really wanting to chance their arm, I think we can match that and almost better it with the players that we've got.
We've had some good questions come through this week, and some of my favourite questions are always the most obvious ones, and sometimes it's just taking it right back to a complicated game and simplifying it so everyone can understand. This came through from Isaac October. What is our game plan / strategy, referring to the All Blacks? What is our defensive style? Brynner, what is the All Blacks' game plan right now?
Depending on who they're playing. Like, I think if you look at that French series, we were able to win the physicality battle, and when we were able to do that, our backs are swinging and been able to score tries when we got really nice and tight. And we talked about it at length with how they were able to score tries on the edge. So I think that's probably one part of, if we do get that physicality right, we have the ability to be able to swing together, choose the right option. And if you look at that first half, even though, we lost against South Africa, you look at the skill set and I guess the ability for us to be able to use the ball under pressure, to get the ball, the depth, the adjustment of being able to know that line speed's coming, to get that ball away. We're very good in that first half and probably should have scored a couple more points in terms of the chances that we did have. So I think that our attack is there. It's probably just in that South African game and the execution, and I guess the bombardment that we felt in the second half probably overshadowed with how well we played in that first half. And then I think also, depending on what the conditions are like and if it is condensed, we do have to be able to go to the pressure game. So I think with our kicking game and being able to build, being able to put them under pressure and kind of in a pressure cycle of what we saw in that first test match against South Africa. So I just think with the difference with what I see from South Africa is that they're very, very good at being able to play the condensed style and being able to go to the contested game behind defensive pressure. But even though they lost against us in that first test match, they've got that. But the second test match, with the ability to be able to play with ball in hand, I think they just did a little bit better in that second half. But to answer your question, I think we've got two ways that we do play, but I think ideally that running rugby and in that French series have been able to win the physicality collision area, and then being able to use our backs and that kind of swinging motion that Jip kind of has touched on with what we saw with Taranaki. It's probably our DNA of being able to see over the way how we play.
I think it's interesting what you say, Brennan, and I think it's worth explaining what you mean by pressure cycles, because in terms of what I suppose viewers should look for and what is a pressure cycle.
When you've got a very, very good defence, if you look at probably the South Africans, the way that they're able to win the collision area, and we're probably not able to get that good gain line percentage of what we probably do against other teams. It's been able to say, how are we able to put this team under pressure without using the ball? And I know sometimes people might see it as a little bit negative, but setting up for a box kick or a contested ball of 10 to be able to nail the kick, and I guess with the aerial battle and being able to not have escorts game, to get a tap back and being able to dive on the ball and then being able to have, I guess, a little bit of chaos for 30 seconds off that, being able to use the ball, shift the ball, being able to get it to our X-Factor players, have been able to, I guess, to get the footwork of a Roigard, Will Jordan with space in there, with space around it. It's probably a good example of that. And I think also as well, 50-22s, being able to kick the ball nice and long, winning a kick battle, being able to go, we're not going to chance our arm here because we're not in the position where we want to be in the attacking side. So we're kicking down the middle of the field. It's bouncing one or two times. You've got a Roigard or a Beauden Barrett chasing the ball to be able to put a charge down. Then that ball goes out and it's 30 metres out from their line. So those are kind of the pressure cycles without the ball that I've kind of touched on, because I think against the Australians, I feel that there are going to be a lot more opportunities to play on top of them because of the way that they do defend. And if we do win that physicality battle, I think we are going to be able to pull trigger and be able to get a lot more opportunities, what we found probably against South Africa. But still having that ability that if we aren't getting that right and we're making mistakes, or for whatever reason our execution with our ball in hand isn't working, going back to those pressure cycles of being able to make it a little bit more easy for us and back our defense is probably a way that I'd explain the pressure cycle.
Now, we have had plenty of emails come through. We'll get to more next week. We'll get through as many as we can, but you guys are fired up, so there's lots of emails. We interviewed Timoci Tavatavanawai a while ago. Now, the All Blacks have had a lot of injuries, and he is one of the guys who has also struggled after going back to the NPC and copping an injury that took him out of the Rugby Championship. But we had a chance to catch up with him, the enigma out of Dunedin, out of the Highlanders, who's just gone from strength to strength this year.
Man, there's a lot of nicknames floating around for you, eh? Jimmy the Difference, Jimmy the Brust. Have these always been around? Like, when did you start picking up all these nicknames?
The first one was from Goody, Jimmy the Difference. He's the first person that come up with that. Story behind it was playing my first year in New Zealand, playing club, and I think he just came back from overseas trying to retire from footy. And I play Nelson Club against his team, then yeah, I was just carving him up for a bit. He gave me that name.
It was pretty funny because like we, apart from Tez and Andrew Goodman was one of our coaches,
And we're hearing, like, this guy's coming, this Fijian kid's coming, and like, we just hear the difference. And it's when he's actually on the field, you would see it. He would beat people one-on-one, he'd go through people. So he's had some really good nicknames. So yeah, Jimmy the Difference was massive in 2021. So.
Yeah. But now, I mean, you're an All Black. Firstly, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's an incredible thing. Not just that, you're an All Black midfielder. You're named in the midfield. Now, at the start of the year, were you a midfielder at all at the start of the year? Like at the Highlanders, etc.?
Not at all, not at all. Yeah, funny story that you had a meeting with all the coaches. It's like a coach session, but yeah, had a one-on-one with Jamie Joseph. He asked me a question there, what are your walk-ons? And I was like, I just want to learn how to play 12 and that. Some, being specific with that. Then he's like, oh, don't worry about it. You won't be playing midfield. You're number one winger, so you won't be playing midfield. Then few minutes later, named the team and he put me at 12. I was like, oh. Yeah, but nah, been loving it so far.
Where did you learn to play 12? Because did you play it growing up? Did you have any idea like what it might look like for you this year?
I usually playing 13 when I was growing up.
Yep.
Then moved from 13 to wing. Haven't played 12 at all. But it was a kind of a goal to be played 12 because once you have that on your CV, then you got a lot of variety on yourself. So yeah, goal to play 12, but yeah, not this early. Yeah, not this early, but yeah, I'm so happy that they put me there and get the recognition for it.
What did you find the big differences of being a number 12 this year?
As a 12, you got to talk a lot, and you kind of be the next driver on the game. So yeah, it does helps how I play too. So like to get my hands on the ball a lot. So yeah.
People know you for your power and your ability to create something from nothing, but it's the small skills that you need at 12, right? It's the kicking game, it's those distribution skills. Has that been a thing that you've spent a lot of time working on over the last couple of years?
Yeah. Been watching it. And the man himself, Untitled Rugby clips on YouTube, so he does it. Yeah, as soon as I get named at 12, that's the first person I go to look for skills in that. So, yeah, he was the same as me. He played wing and got season 12. So, yeah, during training, just grab our skills coach. But it was great. We have the great Ben Smith down there, so he was good at those kind of skill set. Get under his wing, and yeah, he just taught me a lot on the kicking style of it.
Your turnover game is a massive strength that you have. Like we touched on it a lot in our podcast this year. Every single time in a big moment, you would be able to get the ball stealing like a number 7. I think you probably had one of the most turnovers in the competition with that being a number 12. Do you do any special work in and around that, or is it just something that's come really natural through you playing rugby?
Just come natural on rugby. I hardly do it at training, because at training you just focus on the other stuff. Maybe just on training I do kind of warm my hammies up, but other than that, just see the opportunities and you just go for it.
We've seen Fijian midfielders turn into number 7s before overseas as well. Have you ever considered that kind of thing?
Yeah. I watched the man Lepani Botia for La Rochelle, and he's now their number 6. So yeah, that's another thing they want to play. Keep on asking Jamie Joseph, but it's hard. Maybe one day when you keep growing older, getting slower, then keep moving into number 7. But something that I want to try one day. So yeah.
You just talked about Jamie Joseph and his first year, obviously coming back, being the head coach. How did the captaincy come about, and how did that conversation go?
Because I did first block of pre-season. I was watching that was ruthless. Did my knee, MCL, meniscus, ACL, so had to do rehab for that. But then I came back on the second block. He had a meeting with him. Then he just said, you're going to be in the leadership group. So I was like, yeah, sweet, thank you. Then, because I was in the leadership the year before that. So I got up when I was about to leave the door, and he's like, no, we haven't finished yet. I was like, oh. And he told me, oh, mate, you're going to be our captain this year, co-captain this year. So yeah, congrats. So yeah, it was to come from him, and it was kind of, when he call you out for a meeting, you know it's going to be something for real, you know. Trying to avoid those kind of one-on-one meetings now and then. So yeah, when he called me up at the gym, oh, do you have 5 minutes? I was like, yeah, sweet. do you have 5 minutes? Even when he was, after that, he's like, do you have time? And I'll just tell him, oh yeah, it's 11:15. Well, I thought he was asking me the time. That's how scared I was, to be honest. And, yeah, I was just like, and the boy's like, nah, he's asking, do you have time? So then, I went and had those meetings.
I think also because, you know, sometimes captaincy can be a burden for some players and having that extra responsibility, but it just seemed like it didn't really worry you at all because your form was incredible to the points now where you're obviously an All Black. Like, you obviously would have had some really good leaders that would have moulded you and helped you out through that process as well.
Yeah, the great one was David Avila. He was with Terzi. The way he treated all the new players and all the players the same. Yeah, he's the key role to how I become a leader, and especially we have Ethan de Groot and all the leadership from within in our team that helps me just do my work because they're good at speaking in that because I'm not that really good. So they are the one that does all that, and I just focus on rugby. And when I needed to, I just spoke what's in my mind, what's needed. So it's good to have a bunch of leaders that are good at those areas, so it allows me to just do the work that I do. Yeah.
You know, becoming an All Black, just talk us through where were you? How did it happen? Were you expecting it? Were there any kind of murmurings around that you might be a possible selection for the All Blacks? How did all that happen, and how did you feel that day?
I was at home, just gunning day. Got some list from the missus to do, so I missed a call from Razor. So then I about to went down to Mitre 10 and I saw his message, about to connect the Bluetooth, saw his message, and I was like, oh, missed call. I called him straight away. Then the only thing I was saying that day was Vinaka to him. And I was like lost of words. I was unreal until he would wear the jersey for the first time, do the haka.
You're one of 9 kids?
Yeah.
Yeah, a few phone calls home?
Oh,
For that?
kind of like, because when you're back home, you live in a village. Once you tell somebody, it's going to go around really fast. Keep it on the low. And I just waited for them to see it on the news. And I call them, put them in a group chat. And after that, we just call our siblings group chat and talk about hospitalities. And
how was that feeling? You talk about doing the haka, the national anthem, and being able to do it obviously at Forsyth Bar as well. You talk us through how's the emotions and how's that whole day and whole night?
Oh, the whole day was good. Because I had Sevu was my roomie in Wellington, so keep me on my. I was on my toes, but he was keeping me calm the whole day. Then once you run those warm ups and do the haka, the national anthem, the haka, I was, you're watching it, you're watching on YouTube and watching it on social media. To do it in life, man, it was unreal. One word I'd say was just grateful to be part of it and to be part of something great. Yeah.
You mentioned Sevu, Imoni's the same. 3 of you have all come out of the same school. Talk to us about Queen Victoria and what happens there to create these incredible rugby players.
Oh, the school is originally made just for Chiefs. We're not Chiefs. That's what it's for. But had a lot of old boys that come from their school. Joe Vindiri is one of the greats. Then Sevu, Moni, then me, then the likes of Henry Spate there.
I was talking to Moni before we came on air that you still hold the record for the long distance at the school. Is that correct? The 800, maybe 400, 1500 as well?
1,500.
Yeah. Yeah,
back in the days, 60 kg. Came over. Still holding the 1,500 slash 800.
Yeah.
Not a speedster, but run for age.
Well, that's why you can do double effort. That's viral.
60 kg. 60 kg. You ate some protein shakes, some eggs along the way.
Yeah. Nutritionist trainer, Tenzi want me bigger. So I had to went in a plan to have 8 eggs, protein, and in the morning, then went really big over the kg they want me. So cancel the protein, just do 2 eggs in a day.
8 to 2.
Yeah, I'm surprised you can still eat them.
8 to 2.
Jeez. Hey, we'll finish up now, mate.
Who is one player who gets you excited, gets you on the edge of your seat to watch?
I'll say Joe Roigard. I'd say growing up, watching him, the way he changed the game. As a winger, he's not that big, but he's just fast. Every time he touches the ball, he creates something. So I'd say Joe Roigard.
Good call. Well, thank you very much, mate. All the best for the Rugby Championship.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
If you, a family member or friend, wants to get into rugby shape, we have the giveaway to suit. Along with All Blacks trainer Dr. Nick Gill's Rugby Ready team, we're trying to get the rugby community, whether you're a player or fan, fit and strong. Each week, one winner will receive 4 weeks of free access to the Rugby Ready Perform membership with full access to all of Dr. Nick Gill's pre-season, in-season, off-season and specialty programs to help take your game to the next level. A huge congratulations to this week's winner of the Rugby Ready giveaway, Jack Stock. You've scored 4 weeks of free access to the Rugby Ready Perform membership. Thanks again to everyone who entered. We love reading your stories. And if you didn't win this round, don't worry, you're still in the running. So keep those amazing submissions coming and it could be your name that we announce next week. And if you want in, it's simple. Just DM Rugby Ready on Instagram with the code ARP and tell them why you'd love to win. And of course, if you miss out, you can get 75% off memberships through ARP by going to the link or using the QR code below. Over in South Africa, in Durban, as we said, where the boot parties are fired up, will we see Argentina have a chance of knocking off the South Africans? Will we see an upset that puts this race wide open again?
I'd love to see the same team that played the All Blacks go out because I think that would create one of the most exciting and entertaining games because that would suit the Argies perfectly, you know, like that sort of looseness, lots of turnovers, scrambled D, chaos. They love chaos. You give an Argentinian side chaos, they'll thrive in it. I also think potentially some penalty opportunities help Argie. If they're a little bit looser, the Springboks, it helps if they can pick away at those threes. Whenever they win tests, they'll take those threes and they kick them. However, I don't see Rassie going away from the Pollard style makeup. Remembering he made a lot of changes when they lost against Argentina last year, Rassie, and it was very similar to the side that played the All Blacks, and that helter-skelter just worked against them and played into the Argies' hands. So my assumption would be it's going to be a lot of contestable kicking, and a lot of territory-based kicking and then really trying to muscle up at maul time and go through the middle of the Argies from a South African point of view.
With what Jip said, I do agree. You know, you don't want this Argentinian team to be able to play in chaos. You know, probably you look at also the British Irish Lions when they did play, when they won that game, the amount of times that they got the contestable game right on the attacking side for Argentina, and they were able to use the click attack and counter attack and scored a lot of tries off that. So I think also what I have been impressed with the Argentinians is their scrum attack. Like, I think they've got probably the best scrum attack and been able to use strike plays off first phase in the competition. So, you know, I think if you are Kendrick Lynn, who is in and around that Argentinian team, he might be seeing pitches that they can try and get past this the defensive line speed off first phase and probably in phase play as well.
The South Africans seem to be evolving away from the bomb squad to some degree, at least testing what it's like without it.
Massively. Like, if you think of most of them are starting. You know, Malcolm Marx is playing a hell of a lot of minutes, so I do think they've adjusted a lot. They're just creating a depth chart that you dream of in terms, and I mean depth chart not on personnel, they're doing that as well, but more styles. Like we talk about maybe having two, but I think there is another style there where you can incorporate both in terms of your bench selection and almost be able to switch it on a dime into this, you know, risky obviously, but you get the feeling that Rassie wants to have the ability to decide how they're going to play based on how accurate that first half is, if that makes sense, and selecting a 23 around that. I think there's going to be more evolution of that towards probably like a combined style, if that makes sense. Like that, because I don't think you can go into a World Cup final you know, just chucking all your chips in and hoping it comes off. I think you want to be able to put your chips in, confidently know whatever hand you're dealt, you can go one way or the other.
Yeah.
They're not there yet, but I definitely think they could create that bench support to do that, if that makes sense.
Bryn, how hard is that really to switch up a style mid-game? I mean, we talk about it with the All Blacks with the problems in the second half and whether or not they've got the ability to adjust on the run. Is switching between game plans more difficult than it seems?
It's a good question. Look, you're going with a game plan, and look, let's just say if it's running rugby, let's say you're playing at Forsyth Bar, for example. It's going to be a drive. You're playing against a passive defense, and okay, you're thinking for that week, okay, cool, we'll be able to hold on to the ball, and it's got a lot of phases to be able to score some points. For whatever reason, your skill execution is off. Now they're bringing different pitches in terms of, let's say they bring line speed defense, and what you thought you previewed, and what you were trying to get, you're not getting within the first 20 to 30 minutes. Now, for some teams, if you can't adjust on the run, you just continue to keep doing that, then you're going to continue to keep making mistakes, and you're probably going to lose the game. But for me, it's in and around it. It's coming together and being able to, whether it's through coaches, players, and I guess the work that you've done through the duration of the season to be able to adjust on the run. So you might want to go back to your pressure cycles. Okay, we want to go to a kicking game. We want to play without the ball because we're turning over the ball with a higher error rate with our skill execution. Let's go to our contestable games to be able to change the way of how the game is going, and then being able to, I guess, build momentum off that. Or thirdly, if you can't get that, you're able to go to your set piece. Let's go to our scrum, being able to build some penalties. Let's be able to get some free entries into the 22. Then we can make it really condensed and making it really lean in terms of what's required. Being able to get around the corner, win collisions, and making it really easy. So it is, I think it's pretty simple, Ross, but the time that I guess to do it and being able to train it and being able to go through those scenarios and talking about it is a big preparation side of it to get it right. And I think the personnel of players that you do have to be able to understand situationally, whether that's your lock, your hooker, your 9, your 10, your midfield, your 15, those guys collectively understanding what's required and what's happening, and then being able to marry that in-game to be able to get the players where they need to be to execute the different strategy or different plan if you aren't able to execute the plan that was probably originally set out at the start of the game.
It's doable, but you don't want to put yourself under unnecessary stress, so you just have to have the players available so you can play to your strengths. Now, that can be done. But it just means if the first option isn't going well, the timing of those substitutions when you change to those strengths can maybe leave you a mountain too far to climb, because if then you make the changes early and you're not nailing both strategies, it can become unnecessary pressure that you've created. So it's just a risk versus reward, in my opinion, but it's definitely doable.
Yeah.
But people, like coaches at international level in particular, you'd be more risk adverse, I think, because the stakes are so much higher.
Yeah. Yeah, Rassie's not very risk adverse.
No. That's what I'm saying. I think he's building to a complete chips all in, can play however we want. Based on what the opposition's presenting to us.
It's pretty impressive, and that might be part of the reason why he's looking to sign on until 2031, until after, not this World Cup coming up, the following World Cup. And they're trying to work their way through, because apparently Rassie's got other offers on the table. He wants to take all of his assistant coaches with him as well. That's 6 years of signing on Rassie and all of the assistant coaches. Now, if you're South African rugby, are you doing that? Are you going, okay, I'm all in? 6 years is a long time in the coaching life cycle.
It is a long time, but if you look at the way they behave in terms of preparation, they are constantly asking themselves questions. Where can this evolve to? Now, if they just were sticking to their guns and saying, this is how we're going to play, and what you normally see, I suppose, from international coaches, then you wouldn't. Like, 6 years is a hell of a long time, but it's not just Rassie. The crew that's behind him, and I think if he can get Tony Brown, like, he's the most innovative and I suppose out there thinker in terms of attack. They're constantly going to improve themselves. Do you know what I mean? And I see it as less risky. I'd be taking that consistency and those personalities. There's no. I don't know a side in the world that wouldn't take it.
Yeah. Do you sign on Rassie until he's in the retirement home, Brenner?
I think for Kiwis, you probably want him to go, but no, look, I just think he's, the game, the way that they're evolving, like, they're just not even a finished product right now in terms of the way that they have played, like, through bringing back in Tony Brown and the way that they've been able to attack and evolve and change, the innovation, and we're continuing to keep talking about with Rassie and his coaching group, whether that's on the field, having Piper there as a ref person that's able to come in and be able to, talk around the laws, why would you not? The fact that he's had success with 2 World Cups, they're evolving, he's innovative, and they are winning. So, yeah, look, and I think what it does do as well, it gives you great security. And what that's going to do if it continues to be on how it has been going through the duration of his World Cups, a couple of World Cup cycles, those assistant coaches that are going to be there, they're going to grow again as well with the amount of conversations, the players that they're going to be working with, the evolution, the growth of them for not only South Africa, the rugby team, but for their progression as coaches, hopefully within that setup. Yeah, I'd be thinking that, yeah, it's a good call to be able to continue to keep him on. Probably not great for Kiwis though, Ross. Not good for us though.
Well, Brynna, success breeds success, which means you've got to go out there and train. Enjoy the continuation of your training camps in the preseason.
Cheers, boys. Talk soon.
As far as success is concerned, the Black Ferns have fallen just short of what they were considering success, which is obviously defending their Rugby World Cup title after a really average start against Canada, and they were never able to really get back into that game.
I mean, it has been probably the one thing we've spoken about week after week is just the slow start and the amount of tackles that have to be made and the amount of penalties given away. I think the biggest difference why they were able to survive against everyone else is that they still had the ability to slow that ball down defensively. And if you look at the first 60 minutes, the speed of ball, the up-tempo mindset of Canada, it's still just, I suppose, the glaringly obvious stat which rings true throughout any grade of rugby is if you lose the breakdown, you're pretty much guaranteed to lose the game. And obviously there was 4 breakdown steals for Canada to our 0, which has not been a stat we've lost previously in this competition. I will put an asterisk by that because I've gone through a lot of the breakdowns, and in terms of consistency, there were a lot of penalties that weren't given to the Black Ferns, particularly in the 22, where they were clearly on the ball, clearly lifting, and then getting cleaned out, whereas it seemed to be a very quick response. I don't want to sound like that person blaming the ref, but there was inconsistencies around the breakdown. There clearly was, but nonetheless, I think, for that, especially after half-time, like, we needed to score probably back-to-back sort of blows, and Canada came out and played that up-tempo. Man, they must be fit, must be seriously fit, because it's a helter-skelter way to play. But man, it works. And like, before getting off the Black Ferns, they're a genuine chance.
Taking us back to the Black Ferns, let's go to the Ashley and Martin turning point, and it could be one of many things, not an individual turning point. When you look across the board, the discipline, the ball security, Georgia Miller, the fact that, and I'm going to be the referee guy, under Amy Barrett-Theron, who was the referee, and to bear in mind she's had 49 test matches, the Black Ferns have had 6 wins and 5 losses. They compare that to, their all-time stats of 14 wins and 23 losses. They struggle with her, big time. Not getting your head around how to cope with a ref and the way that the ref works is a big deal, right?
Yeah, it's frustrating, I think, for them, but it's also, I think the opposition had a very good handle of, how to sort of play to the pitches she likes to see and understand. They would have had that understanding, but yeah, I don't agree with a lot of the calls.
There were times when Canada were on their knees, picking up the ball and getting a turnover on their knees.
Yeah, I think they were best prepared, but clearly there's something in the Black Ferns style, particularly around the breakdown, that this referee doesn't like.
Yeah.
Like, we can't make it personal. Like, there's no referee goes out there and has just a genuine bias, but there's something. There is just a style thing that she doesn't like. And I've never seen this before in my life. Olsen Baker, 34 carries, just under 300 metres, 13 tackles at 100%. So obviously first in terms of carry metres and carries, but third in tackle. That's an impressive individual performance. Like, in a big game, 34 carries. Like, I think the most I've ever seen is definitely like Harry Wilson, probably like 21, 22. 34 is outrageous.
And always good.
Over the gain line.
Yeah.
Like, I think the gain line stat was like 82%, which the ones that weren't were like pick and goes. It was a pretty amazing performance from her as an individual, and unfortunately, off the back of a lot of what she created, we couldn't finish. You know, we still had those opportunities, like 11 entries for 3 tries at 27% compared to Canada's, you know, who were operating at 50%. We still had the ability to win that game, and it just wasn't our day. It just didn't seem to click. I do think the Georgia Miller factor was big. Like she was a big cornerstone of a lot of those results, particularly turnover ball and creating that unstructured play that others fed off.
Yeah.
So I do think she, you know, it was gutting that she couldn't get out there.
Yeah, it's tough. And then they've got to play this bronze medal game.
Yeah, but I like that. Like, just as a player, if I think of the player mindset, I want to right a few wrongs. I would hate that feeling going into your summer break. You've got an opportunity to show, hey, like we're still in the top echelon of world rugby. So I think it's exciting.
Yeah.
And that's you've got to take that mindset. It was no different when the All Blacks bundled out in Tokyo and then had a massive, awesome performance against Wales. So I'm excited to see a massive strike back and massive, I suppose, accuracy in and around that breakdown to allow them to say, hey, we're still here.
And beating France is no given. You've got to be dialed in to beat France.
Yeah, they were a much better side too than the quarterfinal, and I think they're the sort of side as well. Like, this is a good grudge match. I think it'll still be I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I think when you look at some stats as well of Canada, you know, for the French, like their carry to pass ratio was basically 1-to-1. Canada, though, it was a very simple game plan. So either pick and go once and behind, or just direct carries. Play to an edge, direct carry, try and create that unstructured play. So it's very similar to the French style. Like, they can play a very similar way. So we need to come up with ways that we can get that ball back or at least slow it down.
Lots of exciting footy to watch this weekend. We've got the Rugby Championship, we've got the World Cup.
Shield Challenge.
We've got the Shield Challenge, North Harbour. your Harbour boys trying to be the 5th team to lift the Shield this year, which I think is the record.
Yeah, and they are getting better and better, North Harbour. You know, again, sometimes when it's just not going your way, they missed an opportunity against Northland yesterday. Sunday, rather. But Shield this season seems to bring about a lot of handovers, and you know, we do like Forsyth Bar. We obviously won our first championship down there in 2016. It is I suppose a ground underneath the roof, 1 o'clock kickoff that really plays into the style of North Harbour, and I mean, I'm incredibly optimistic, but I have to say this Otago side could win this whole comp.
Yeah,
like, they have got some, you know, players that they're just getting unearthed. Like, you've got some players that have played some super, but probably not frontline starters that are really leading the way. But then, you know, a player like Lucas Casey is, man, remember his name, because those 2 tries were freakish. But, you know, he hit the most rucks at 33 against Canterbury. He made 15 out of 17 tackles, 11 carries for 120 metres, 8 tackle busts, 2 line breaks. Like, yes, the tries are amazing, but if you actually just watched him as an individual and the way he got around the field and his work, he led all the stats for both sides. It is seriously a massive effort from the open side. I
love how old school he is. Goes through Heartland Championship, plays North Otago. I think he's from up north.
Yeah.
He's from Kerry? I think he's from up north.
Missed in the pipeline.
Yeah, missed in the pipeline, and the next thing you know, he's down in Otago ripping up as a 22-year-old.
Yeah, and I'd say there'd be people knocking on his door for Super Rugby. If he's not already signed, I don't know if he is, but I'm sure Jamie Joe likes what he's seeing.
Well, he's Blues under 18, so maybe you should get your boys to bring him back up.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm sure they've seen him too. You know, I'm a little bit late to the party. People have been talking about him, I suppose, throughout this run of Otago's games. So that performance, though, against Canterbury, against a defensive team, like, as I've credited Jimmy Lynchies for the way he's got that you know, Canterbury defence going. It's not one that's very easy to break down, and you know, they did it when it mattered.
Lots of great rugby this weekend between the Rugby Championship, the Rugby World Cup, the Ramfleet Shield, the NPC, the FPC. There's just So much great sport on Sky Sport. Thank you very much for joining us on the Aotearoa Rugby Pod. We'll wrap it all up again next week. The show, of course, brought to you by Ashley and Martin Medical Hair Centres. Thank you to everyone around the building who helps us behind the scenes to get this show's air, and thank you very much for joining us. Send us your emails at aotearoarugbypod@sky.co.nz or get into the comments section. And don't forget, if you are going to Eden Park this weekend, the Sky Fan Zone on the number 2 ground, you can head in there beforehand, bring your ticket. There's entertainment for the whole family to go in there. There's a bar in there. There's all sorts of things, and afterwards there will be some entertainment, some more, a big concert there with Kings and Ella as well. So plenty there from 1:45 at the ground, on the number 2 ground. It's going to be amazing. So enjoy your weekend of footy. We'll catch you soon. Mā te wā.